Because for myself, in order to get to these non-physical states, you have to be able to let go of your human personality. Because you'll start seeing visions, and it's like you're daydreaming or you're in a lucid dream. You'll see visions, and parts of your personality will come up, and you can work with those for healing, and that's really powerful. But if you want to go to another dimension, like I do in I channel, you just have to like let those be by the side. You
Yes.
can't engage them, and you stay in that state of consciousness, and then you can find yourself actually going out of the human experience into these other dimensions. But I was going to be a medical doctor. Like I was going down this pathway of being like, in the world and of the world. And the day after I graduated high school, the next day I found my first spiritual book, and I read it,
What was
and
it? What was it?
it was Carlos Castaneda's Teachings of Don Juan.
Okay.
So it's a book that was written in UCLA, I think in the 1970s, the early 70s. And so there was a graduate student at UCLA in anthropology, and he wanted to do his thesis on studying the hallucinogenic plants of the native traditions. And he was a grad student, so he was, just excited about, studying different plant medicines and like peyote and things like that that are available just outside of California in the Sonoran Desert in northern Mexico.
Yeah.
And so he was going there just to study plants, and he actually got introduced into an entire world of shamanism and other dimensions of reality and non-physical beings and out-of-body experience and all these wild things. And
Did it make you want to seek and experience what he had experienced?
oh, definitely. Yeah,
So did you actually try any of the psychedelics that were
I've tried almost all of them that
so
exist in
have
the
you
world.
done anything with 5-MeO DMT?
I'm not so good with the chemistry and all of that.
It's the it's
Like the
the it's the
names of
toad.
different.
It's the
I've
toad,
done the
bufo,
toad.
toad.
Yeah. I've worked with Bufo one time.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's where
yeah.
what I've primarily worked with. I've had
Okay.
16 very profound
Oh
journeys,
wow.
and I really believe that my YouTube channel and the videos I've created were kind of out of one of those experiences. They were downloads.
Hmm. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, plant medicine was powerful for me when I first started waking up in consciousness. And
Yes.
then as I started to explore different types of plant medicine, I realized that they all were taking me to the same place. And this is the place I learned how to go to through channeling and different out of body experiences and meditation.
So you no longer needed that
No.
as an assist. You somehow opened up and were able to do that on your own naturally.
Yeah. Yeah. And my first experiences were natural. And then, because I didn't even know there was plant medicine, like when I was a young kid, I was
Of
channeling
course.
information, I
Yeah.
was having certain non physical things. Then I found the plants and I wanted to experiment with them. So I would do them just a handful of times just to understand what it was. And they were all beneficial experiences for me. Now, just to put this out there, because I know there's an audience watching, I think it's really important that people know how to work with their minds before they put chemicals and plants like this in their body.
Oh my
Because,
gosh, 1,000,000%.
yeah, because you see your own mind,
Yes.
you see what's going on. And for
Yes.
myself, I already had a lot of experience with Zen meditation where I knew how to silence my mind. So I would take this plant medicine and I would meditate. I wouldn't socialize. I wouldn't walk around. It
Yes.
was not a party thing.
No, no, no.
I would sit and meditate with it with minimal distraction, usually with like one person. I wouldn't do it in large groups because I was so sensitive to the energy. And for
Yes.
me, I wanted to know what this plant can offer me. I wanted to come into a state of communion as I brought the consciousness of the plant and my consciousness together for a temporary time. So I would silence my mind and I'd meditate with these plants, but not any sort of structured meditation. I was just surrendering into the state of awareness with a silent mind and trusting the experience. So I wasn't trying to control it at all. And I
Hmm.
also knew how to remove any thoughts and any emotions. Because for myself, in order to get to these non-physical states, you have to be able to let go of your human personality. Because you'll start seeing visions, and it's like you're daydreaming or you're in a lucid dream. You'll see visions, and parts of your personality will come up, and you can work with those for healing, and that's really powerful. But if you want to go to another dimension, like I do in I channel, you just have to like let those be by the side. You
Yes.
can't engage them, and you stay in that state of consciousness, and then you can find yourself actually going out of the human experience into these other dimensions.
I agree with you. For me, when I've done my 5-MeO DMT journeys, I'm with a shaman. I'm completely by myself. I prepare myself spiritually. I've been on a journey, a spiritual journey for more than 20 years. So I've done a lot of work on myself. And when I have those experiences, I have what they call a breakthrough dose, where I completely leave my body and I become my soul.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm going to ask you, I was going to ask you later in our interview, but I'm going to ask it now because this is a really great place. One of the things that I experienced in that state was eternity. Eternity was not a time. Eternity was actually a state of being. I've
Mm.
never heard anybody say that out loud. I've never heard any other person talk about that, but I was very clear that it was not a time constraint. It was a state of being. Is
Yeah.
this what you know eternity to be also?
I've never explored eternity in that same way that you have, but I have a different experience that I'll share about, which sounds similar to this. But to talk about eternity first, my experience is that we are living in eternity. And so there is a quality that I notice when it's like a vibration. It's a quality of knowledge, but you can also feel it in a very subtle way. It's not an emotion, it's like a mental energy, it's a knowing. And so there's a feeling like I always exist in the present moment and the present moment lasts forever.
Right. But
And
that's what
it's,
I mean by it being
yeah,
a felt like a state of being to me,
yeah,
not
you
like.
relax into it. It's a knowing and it's
Mhm.
surreal. And it kind of creates this eerie, expanded silence where it's like you're kind of like blasted open beyond the feeling of a human conscious understanding. So
Yes.
it's like a mesmerizing presence that's very aware. You're not like blissed out. You're like captivated in this very focused present moment experience.
There's nothing about it
Yeah.
that felt human to me.
No, definitely not. Yeah, it's a soul level quality. Yeah. Yeah, I had a similar experience. So I usually don't talk about the plant medicine I do, just because
Okay.
the purpose of my teachings is really to help people know who they are. But plants are a pathway to that if you use them
Absolutely.
properly. And I have to
Yes.
emphasize that because I've witnessed people have very difficult experiences, traumatic experiences, and I see them mess up their life because they weren't prepared with how to work with the content that can come up in the plant medicine. So you really have to know how to work within your own mind because it's powerful. But like you, every dose I've ever done were, what did you call them? What was the name you
I
gave?
call it breakthrough dose.
Breakthrough dose. Okay, I've heard them called
What
heroes
I'll let me
dose.
explain. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's large for me. What
Okay.
happens is when I take it, I see this, it's like the whatever is in front of me in my human vision becomes very um disconnected. It looks like it's falling apart,
Yeah,
and
like
then I'm
fractals.
gone and I'm completely out of
Yeah.
my body is laying there, my shaman is watching over me. I'm breathing, of course, because I'm
Mhm.
still alive, but I am no longer in my body. I am immediately
Yeah.
my soul, and I am
Hmm.
probably in the same place but in a different dimension. And
Yeah.
I'm gone, and my body lays there for 20 minutes, and that's what I mean by a breakthrough dose.
Hmm.
I don't feel anything in my human body at all. It's more like a, I guess, what I would call or equate to a near death experience, because that's
Yeah.
why I think I'm drawn to
Exactly.
those
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah, it is a near death experience. Yeah. Um, yeah, because definitely that's what we do. We leave our body and we realize we're these conscious states,
Yes.
we're these life forms of consciousness.
And it's almost there's just no experience like it on this earth for me to be able to really describe what it is. And
Yeah.
it's almost hard to hold on to it because it's so different than what we are. It's only when I get back there again that I was like, oh, fully I get it again. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. Every time you go back into that state, you remember what it was like. Yeah, it's like going,
100%. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So one experience that you reminded me of, one time I was using a plant called Salvia datura.
Okay.
And Salvia datura, I feel that it's incredibly misused. It's part of the sage family, like how you have sage and you purify your house with sage. But it's only found in one area of the world, in this one canyon in the Mexico, or in the mountains of northern Mexico. And I was able to discover this many, many years ago just by researching on the internet. And I found someone who gathers it in those canyons, and then you can purchase it from this person, and they're a chemist and they're a botanist. And so it's really sacred the way it's done, because salvia is often misused and people have horrible experiences. You can see videos of people like jumping through windows and yelling and screaming. There's all sorts of weird stuff that happens when you misuse it. So a lot of people think it's like the worst plant medicine in the world. It's the most chaotic. For me, it's my favorite.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. I've
yeah.
never heard anybody talk about this before.
Oh, okay. It's extremely powerful. Like it's kind of like the toad medicine where you're out in, 30 seconds.
Okay, yep,
Now I
yep.
did it as drops, not we wouldn't smoke it. And so it would take about 10 or 15 minutes to come on, but then you're immediately cast out into the universe. And so one of my intentions, because I always have an intention before I
Yes,
use
you always have to have an
medicine.
intention. So
Yeah,
important.
one of my intentions was I want to go beyond creation.
Mm.
And that just came out of my head. I don't know, like, I don't think that way. I wasn't planning this. I just sat down, like, okay, go inside. What's my intention? And my inner knowing said to go beyond creation or beyond existence. I think it was beyond existence. And so when I was using this plant medicine, I just sit there, I'd meditate, and I actually got sucked out of the back of my body through this gel like screen. So there's this screen that's like whitish gray, and it's like a film, like a curtain, like gauze, and it's jelly like, it's like plasma or gel. And I would get sucked behind this screen, and then in front of the screen and in front of me was the physical reality. And I was
Like you
existing
were
back.
watching it like a movie?
Yeah, like I was in another room. It's kind of like if you can think about like a two-way mirror that they have like in the police stations, and where you can see the room, but they can't see past it. It's like that. There's like a film
Is
like
this the veil of
behind.
forgetfulness that you think you pass through?
I don't know. It's definitely a veil. Yeah.
So it's
But
that's kind of what made me think of when you described it.
yeah. So I got sucked through it. And is this like gel, and I go through it and I'm on the other side and I can see the whole physical reality in front of me. And to the left and to the right is just darkness for eternity, for as long as you can see. I'm in this realm of darkness, and in front of me is the human dream, the human reality. And I got drawn through the veil. And so then you're on the other side and you still have faculties of understanding. So I'm, absorbing the experience, comprehending it, without thinking, you're gathering an understanding of what this is. And then what I like to do when I'm in these non-physical states, especially towards the end of the journey, is go back and forth in and out of the experience so that I familiarize myself with the process of how did I get there? And so how can I
Really?
return to it? Yeah, I've always done that ever since the beginning. When it's
Hmm.
like fading away, and you're starting to come back into physical reality, I would go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until then you feel like, okay, I'm firmly back in the physical reality.
So have you been able to experience that without the salvia?
Um, think I can't recall. I can't recall going back through that veil. I don't recall an experience like that again without the salvia. I do when I meditate, I dissolve out of this physical reality and I'm in a void state. But it's
Mhm.
more like I dissolve rather than I get sucked back and out. And I have had other out of body experiences where I go up through my crown chakra and then I'm looking down on my physical body, but I'm still in the world. It's technically an energetic version of the earth, but it looks just like the earth. I'm still in the world, but I'm out of body looking at the world.
Which one
This
feels
was
more real to
different.
you?
Um, well, going out of the crown while still being in the physical earth still feels like you're in the world. So it still has a strong human quality to it, even though you realize you're not a human being. So the first time this happened, I realized I'm not this body. And everything that I was studying in spirituality and meditation and Buddhism, it all was validated by this meditative experience that there's my body sitting in front of me and I'm free from it. And then I overcame my fear of death at the time. And I went through this experience of processing that understanding.
Sounds very much like what near-death experience people say.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's lots. I mean, I've had so many experiences. Like you said, when you go out of body, you sometimes you're in the physical world, but you're like a remote control. We all are. And we can shift with a different intention and we can move through different levels. So when I would use some plant medicine, sometimes I would appear in the physical room. And then I would shift at a deeper level and I would be able to see the non-physical energy body of the people in the room with me and their physical body. And I telepath and communicate. And sometimes they were aware of me. Sometimes they'd respond, but usually they wouldn't respond. So it's like, okay, they're not aware in this non-physical state. And it's not the physical out of body. It's one step inner, one step more non-physical. And then I'd want to go deeper. So then all of a sudden you move and you go to this deeper reality. And so I've been to different places. Some of them are like a soul level experience where you feel like you have a personality. You still feel like a personal self, but it's a much more pure state. It's like I've always felt like this is more of me. And my soul feels very happy and also like very innocent. Like very natural, very authentic, very pure in a way, and very innocent. And then I've gone to states where I even go beyond that and I lose the qualities of this personality. And then I just become more like an experience of awareness and energy, where the feeling of myself as a form has disappeared and I'm more being an entire environment. I'm feeling myself
expanded.
Like, yeah, and I'm being the environment. And then when I move, the environment moves.
Which sounds very much like quantum physics.
Yeah, definitely. And so we can go to all these places. We've just been so heavily trained to limit our consciousness on staying with the physical body. And that's what the plants can help to loosen up. If we can get past the identification of being a human, then you stop trying to heal your human self with the plants and work on your human self with the plants. And then you can leave your body and leave the human self behind and then explore more of what else is out there. But the challenge is if you're afraid of leaving your body and afraid of leaving the human experience, you won't get there.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Very familiar with that.
Yeah. So that was my first spiritual book and it blew my mind.